Hi, everyone. Welcome to Between Two Flags. It's me, Rosie Convoy, and my co-host, Jason Bainbridge. How are you doing?
Good morning, good evening, I should say. Well, it's good morning for me still, actually, almost. But you're still in the very late eve there in Canada.
I am indeed. So did you want to, we have a very special show tonight. It's dedicated to the New Zealanders and the plight that they're facing. We have some very special guests lined up for tonight. We don't want to do the intro too long. So Jason, did you want to introduce our first two guests?
All right, very good. Now, first of all, let's meet up with Mr. Lingo Louie. I'm not actually sure what his real name is. he's known on the internet and on Instagram and on Facebook as Lingo Louie. So Lingo Louie, I first started following him when we were covering the convoy. Actually, that's where we met. I never met him personally, but I started checking out his work when he was covering the convoy, and then throughout the year he's been all over the place. Actually, he's even been in Australia for a little while. So there he is. There's Lingo there. So
Welcome,
and
Lingo.
actually, I was very impressed. Welcome, dude. I was very impressed because I heard you speaking Chinese once.
Yeah, how you doing? Kia ora te whānau. So that's the greetings here in Māori, Te Reo Māori here in New Zealand. Yeah, I can converse in quite a few languages, so hence why Lingo. It's just the nickname for me. People started calling me that when I was living in Australia, for why not? So yeah, I've lived in China, Italy, spent a lot of time in other countries, over 20 countries, and just seen the world from different views, and getting to speak their language sort of changes the game a little bit because you get in quite deep. So yeah, I'll be doing actually another live stream on Monday in Spanish. So I'll be doing that as well. And just having a multicultural background probably helped growing up with that. So yeah, and just embracing it here in New Zealand, in Auckland. But I've lived abroad probably more than I have in New Zealand. But I literally just came over here just to check out what was going on and to see how bad it really was. And it's bad. So come to help out and do what I can and show the people what's really going on.
Right. For those people that don't know, Louis, what is your actual name? By the way,
Louis. It was me, Louis. Yeah.
Is that all right, Louis? Now,
Welcome, Louis.
Louis is on the ground there in Hawke's Bay. Is that where you are at, Hawke's Bay?
Pretty much, yeah. Just like I'm based in Hastings. I'm with the Man Up crew, just staying up with them and just seeing them progress. And they're pulling out the most numbers, I'd say, in terms of people coming in to volunteer. They turn over houses in days. Like we did a whole street today of about 5 houses, and pretty much I'd say 3/4 of it done. It's unbelievable because they got all the diggers and cranes and trucks and bobcats and shovels and gumboots and you name it. They've got all the wet gear and like 200 people in one street. It's unbelievable. So but based
Amazing.
in Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. I've seen some of your footage over the last few days, and man, it really kind of looks like one of those futuristic movies where like everything sort of like just come to a grinding halt, and sort of Mad Max feel to it. Has a real Mad Max feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's surreal. When I first saw an area called Eskdale, Eskdale, that would just hit my guts. I was like, whoa, this is something you see in a movie. Like this is something that you see in war-torn countries. This is that same energy. And you hear the stories as well when you start asking and talking to people. They just tell you, I was meant to interview one guy. We'll go back to him before I leave. He had his whole vineyard taken off in this area, and he pretty much stood on the roof of his house, and his house survived. They had concrete pillars. They've built it really well. It survived, and he literally watched a house, one of his neighbors, move 3 kilometers, he reckons. And the whole area is maybe like 3 kilometers
Yeah,
wide.
I saw a lot of that kind of activity in Fukushima.
All right.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just
It really the
the
force of the
stories
water
keep
was
hearing
extreme.
people is
The force
crazy.
of the water was really, really extreme.
I've seen not a lot of pictures. There's not a lot of coverage of it happening here in Canada, so that's what I'm hoping to change on the show tonight. I've seen some things that have kind of snuck through because I have made friends in New Zealand now in the last year, since the convoy went to Wellington.
Sure.
So every now and then I'll get some pictures and some messages, and it's been a resounding cry for the last week. Rosie, can you share this, please? Can you share this? Can you share these photos? And so with Jason, we decided tonight we were going to dedicate the show and spread some awareness here in Canada and update people in New Zealand who are watching. So thank you again for being here. Should we bring in Nigel?
Beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you
let's
for
bring in.
dedicating the show for us.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Louie, because this is the first time we've actually had a video chat.
Yes, yeah, we have. Yeah.
Hello, Nigel. Welcome.
Good evening, I guess you could say. Yeah, hi.
Whereabouts in New Zealand are you?
I'm in Hawke's Bay as well, and we are inland from Hastings, actually, going right in from Bridge Par and so forth, for those who know. And we were cut off in two directions. Bridges were washed out, completely disappeared in one direction and completely disappeared in another direction. And then there was one track, it's actually a road that goes partly sealed and partly gravel, and that is the last access point. So if that one gets wiped out, then we're goners. We're cut off completely. But quite a few of the communities further from us are still cut off.
And it's been a week now. Yeah, no, my heart goes out to you. It's been agonizing being so far away. I wish I could help more, but I think if we do everything we can wherever we are and pull together, Oh, technical.
Sorry about that. That was my
that was you.
Reverb there. Okay, sorry. Connection.
Yeah, your connection's a little bit in and out there, Jason. But that's okay. We always blame Jacinda.
A bit shady.
Yeah, well, you are kind of shady.
That's right. Now, let me just do a very quick introduction for Mr. Gray, Nigel Gray. Nigel Gray's been involved in the study and I guess the research, the analysis of the technology called geoengineering, which is a very widespread technology and adopted by many governments around the world. Unlike what mainstream media likes to avoid talking about that, but it absolutely is in a government program which is going on. And in fact, when I lived in Leo would probably attest to that as well. When I lived in China, it was very common and it was really open. The Chinese government didn't.
Oh, he's leaving us hanging. Now I'm curious what the Chinese government
They were very
did.
proud of the fact that they were trying.
You kind of cut out there, Jason. Jacinda.
Somebody doesn't want this forum to go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. You're being censored. You're being banned,
Sounds
Jason.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a Vietnamese spy balloon?
It's a Vietnamese tic tac. Okay,
Yeah,
but
careful.
Anyway, the Chinese government have no problem talking to the citizens about the fact that they geoengineer. They're trying to turn deserts green, and they're trying to increase farmland. And I've seen grids all over China, and it's a very common occurrence. I don't really know if they're all the same chemical components. I don't know if they're all the same. I kind of suspect that some places may be different. Yeah, I just know it's very widely that they're trying to, I guess, terraform the desert areas into grasslands and green pastures for farming
Well,
and so on. So
perhaps I can give a little bit of
how
a
long?
brief on geoengineering.
Yeah, go ahead, Nigel.
The there are a couple of subjects that, and over the last couple of decades, geoengineering has been advancing in technology considerably, and in present time, there is another subject which is called directed energy weapons, and people like go, oh yeah, you're talking conspiracy theory now and so forth. We've all had that, but here's the thing: is that in the markets, directed energy weapons were around $5.3 billion industry for 2022, and they are projected to be possibly go up to 12.9 billion in 2027. You know, that growth is really dependent a lot on a lot of things, you know. So, but the point is, it's a very large market. Now, directed energy weapons are weapons using electromagnetic frequencies and so forth, like laser and so on. And for anyone who doubts that exists, just go straight to the Lockheed Martin website, where they proudly state that they have been using laser weapons in the directed energy weapons in the field successfully for the last 40 years. So you know, so who's the in the tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist when we know that? But as I say, the technology for geoengineering has changed considerably over the last several years. So people will often mention HAARP, which is the high altitude ethereal, whatever, I can never get the whole thing, in Alaska. But you know, absolutely that was used for geoengineering purposes. But since that point in time, there are an incredible lot of new technologies, including the use of drones to drop chemicals, and mostly from what I see, using the New Zealand weather example, is largely we are getting drone cloud creation now using ice nucleation, which is another whole technology. There is a big base. It's in Rockhampton in Queensland. There is a military base that is a joint effort between Singapore and Australia. And when it opened a few years ago, it was about $1 billion base. Well, since then, they have injected, I think by now, I think this year it's about $6 billion have gone into that. What would you do with $6 billion? or let me reword that, what couldn't you do with $6 billion?
Exactly.
On top of that, if you want to consider these technologies, think about the US, what they call black ops budget. It's black operations budget, which is basically undercover secret operations that you know we're not supposed to know about. The black operations budget been running at about $12 billion a year for the last couple of decades, and probably a lot more than that. So this is the kind of money. Now, how do you spend all that money without it being known by anyone where it's going? So, you know, this is what we're up against. So what about hurricanes, around creating hurricanes and so forth? With $12 billion a year, it's that's not even complicated. It's very simple. The patents exist, the money to build the devices, it's all there.
Beijing over-calculated. See, there are two examples in Beijing how they use their geoengineering. The first one was they among other things that they did, like keep the
Oh my goodness.
took everybody off the street, cleaned the whole place up. But they also made sure that it was sunny the entire time, and they were using their geoengineering techniques to do that. And
This is the first time this is
and they over
Crazy.
a massive amount of snowfall on Beijing itself, and they caused millions of dollars, probably a couple of $1 billion in damage, and they actually formally apologized to the public in their local newspaper. So, I mean, it's not like a pipe dream. I mean, this stuff's been going around for decades. I think this started around 1966, probably a little bit earlier, with Werner von Braun and the V2 rocket, but in its very early stages. But formally, I think it started around 1966, something like that. Wouldn't that be the case, Nigel? In the US, at least.
Yeah. I actually, the beginnings of weather modification go right back to the Vietnam War. And there was a guy that I had the good fortune of talking to, a guy by the name of Billy Hayes. He's an American, and he was actually one of the designers of the Operation Popeye. So he was doing it on the military side. He knew, and he was actually creating this weather modification in Vietnam at that time. And so he later, of course, regretted what he did, and he spent the rest of his life. Haven't talked to him. I don't know if he's still alive. He was a couple of years ago, but he was under heavy health issues, and we talked to him about 9/11, and he was talking about how they used the Hurricane Erin, which was off the coast of New York at the time, and they harnessed the energy of that to actually decimate the Twin Towers, along with thermonuclear weapons, which were also planted into the building by a French artist team. So he was explaining, and he knew about this because his brother-in-law flew the aerial in a helicopter, flew the aerial up and planted it on top of the Twin Towers a few days prior to that. So I wanted to plant a bombshell at this moment in time and say, coming back to the Cyclone Gabrielle in New Zealand flooding, yeah, and that is that I want to make it very, very clear that this cyclone, if we look at it back in a week or two ago, it was predicted to hit New Zealand before it had even formed as a cyclone. Now, it formed as a cyclone in the Coral Sea just below the Solomon Islands, which is 3,755 kilometers away from New Zealand. Now, the cloud flow at the time was over the top of New Zealand and down the east coast. The cyclone formed. It didn't go that flow. It just came straight down to the top of the North Island, sat there for hours, and then came around the coast and did its work. Now, I just throw this question out there, and that is, how on earth do you predict a cyclone is going to hit a country 3,755 kilometers away before it's even formed, and then leave the country with no emergency preparation at all? And that's my question. Yeah, this was clearly geoengineering.
Yeah,
100%.
And even
and saw that.
For me, it was like just the fact that they even lied about, they've lied about the numbers. Like for me, we started with this X amount dead, and it's like, hang on, like there's thousands missing. You talk to people, they still haven't found their neighbor or heard from their cousin or something like that. And this is not New Zealand in total has not even 5 million people, and like this region alone, I don't know how much it has, but it's not a big area. Like, it's a very small place, and so it's very easy to know when someone's missing and all that. And from that moment, I thought, no, there's something weird about this. And my grandfather's told me about harp since I was 12, and I just figured this has to be manipulated. And as you said, that was a perfect example of that. It was actually like, how is it formed in the middle of nowhere, then all of a sudden makes this perfect way around to come there. And funny you said about the cloud. I actually spoke to a guy on the ground today, and he goes, the day before there was a massive cloud like that. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And all of a sudden, bang. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. Yeah.
And the same reports came out during Fukushima as well. Fukushima had it was like a two-pronged situation, but there was reports before the Fukushima tsunami as well around Mount Fuji area. Around Mount Fuji area, there were like interesting colored skies and different bizarre patterns in the sky. Phenomenon that these kaleidoscope of colors and that sort of thing. Not a typical sunset in the middle of the day,
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
there's a lot of phenomenon like that, and like I've been watching the radars the last few days. Like I'm not really, I just know about it. I'm not very much of a pro about it, but I just know I did the big deep dive 10 years ago when I was making my documentary, and I wanted to make my part 2 of the documentary but I never really got around to doing it. So it looks like I've got the opportunity now to actually learn more about it from you fellas.
Mm.
The
Louie,
radars are very easy. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The radars are very easy to read, and if you've ever seen an oscilloscope, they used to be in every high school science class would have an oscilloscope, and it would show, it had a little circle like this, and then it had you could actually get wavelengths, and there's the sine wave, which is a perfectly curved wave. Then you have the triangular wave, which is just a nice up-down motion. And then you have the sawtooth wave, which goes up and then cuts down and then up, cuts down like a sawtooth, saws. And then you have a rectangular one, which is like literally rectangular, right? And so very simple. But when you look in the clouds contain moisture, of course. I'm just restating that moisture can be influenced easily by electromagnetic frequencies, and so it shows up these shapes in the cloud. So when you get the radars, the infrared, the satellite images and so forth, you can actually see these wavelengths coming out as circles, squares, rectangles, or triangular waves on the clouds, and it's very, very easy to see. And when you see those, you just remind yourself that this is not something that just nature just automatically makes by it. So it doesn't make nice triangular clouds.
Mm.
So how is everybody doing?
Easter Island.
Easter. Sorry, Jason. Didn't mean to interrupt. This is just the strangest broadcast, honestly. This hasn't happened before. We've had some technical difficulties, but it's mostly when Jason sleeps in and misses the show. But yeah.
Jason's fault.
Guilty.
No, it's our Dern's fault. It's always our Dern's fault here.
Always our Dern. Always just in
And now it's our Dern's and Trudeau's fault.
Yes.
Now, because now he's been told that.
There we go. Fair enough.
Yes. Just blame all of them. So that's what's happened in New Zealand. Then
I just wanted to.
No, I didn't know that the cloud had formed outside. One of my friends, like I said, sent me a satellite image of the cyclone while it was over the North Island there, and it's just terrifying to look at. So now with what you're saying, just explaining, that it was formed in the middle of nowhere, and then it was predicted to come there, is just is terrifying. It's terrifying.
And just being here on ground as well. Well,
Well,
actually,
Sorry.
who mentioned this, you might have known him, Nigel. Rob D. He's on YouTube, and he actually predicted this a few weeks back before it happened as well. And he reads out to you. He seems to be quite an expert on how to read the maps and all that stuff. I don't know anything about it. I just see, all I know is orange, red. It's bad. It's not good. Anyway, he's reading it out and he's going, guys, like, you guys need to get out. Like, the government's probably not going to tell you to go, but you're going to do something. Like, just get the hell out of there. And that was weeks ago. Now he's showing, like, pretty much every day he's putting on something and showing what's happening next and this sort of thing. And everything he's said that's going to happen has happened. Reading through these maps online. It's a normal public website. Like, it's a screen recording and he just talks over it, sort of thing. Don't know if you've seen that video.
Well, Jason usually likes to drop
I have.
links. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to play it?
Yeah.
Just so you know, Jason, it's the other screen. Oh wait, here it is. Should I? Pardon me. Should I bring up your screen here? Did you want?
Okay. So what I've got here is actually what I've got here is Lingo Louie's page, so people can look at the footage that he's collected. So what I'm sharing is his page here on Facebook. So we'll bring that up. Okay, and there you go. He is a connoisseur of languages. Absolutely. I was really impressed to hear him speak Chinese. I spent 7 years in China and I still can't speak Chinese, but my Japanese is not that bad. I spent 6 years in Vietnam and I still can't speak Vietnamese, so I'm not that committed like you.
Shame.
You gotta love it, Yeah, this was the house I cleaned up today, and yeah, it's just crazy. Like, that whole street, they pretty much just unloaded all the rubbish on that street there. And then we just, it's like there's ways of doing it, like, you can't just, like, it's just such a mess. You have to start from somewhere. So basically you have to ravage all the rubbish, like literally cars and stuff, move everything. And then having generators, sometimes you got to, like, these like big sucking vacuums that get all the mud out and move it elsewhere. But 90% of the time it's just shoveling it or having a digger to come and actually move that mud. And then you have to separate all the stuff to the side, which is this here, and that's like the second phase of it, which is after you've cleaned all the mud out. Then you have to get all the, like, jib off the walls and stuff like that, and then basically the house is left, like, almost naked, just like on the structure, foundation, and back to frame, if it's approved to do so, because some of them have just been absolute, like, they're more than finished. So some are lucky to still have their homes, and yeah.
And just what, Jason? So the spray paint on the side, is
now,
that?
There's green.
Yeah. What is that?
Yep. So this is
can you explain? Yeah.
And from what I don't know if maybe Nigel knows more, or I'm not sure, correct me here, but from what I heard, it's just approving if it's a yes or no to keep it. And from what I heard, the number next to it, not on here, doesn't seem to have, but yeah, I'm not sure what that part is, but there's usually, like, I can't even read this one, but usually it has, like, the address number, the street, and then number, and then it has, like, a number in a circle, and apparently the number in the circle is the amount of people they found dead in that house, or yeah.
Wow.
And
This has a C, a plus sign, an OUT sign, and there's a bizarre figure here. It looks like a circle, and then there's a 17. And then down here, it looks like hiragana or ni. Actually looks like Japanese hiragana or ni. And then you got a Z. I guess that's a Z and an 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. It just kind of reminded me of what was it? New Orleans hurricane. This is the sort of thing that you saw.
Yeah, Hurricane
Katrina. Yeah.
Yeah, the houses look equally as devastated. Yeah, no, this is heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah, and this took hours. So, like, there was the whole shed, and we literally, like, we had to use, like, the steel scrapers to move the thick mud, and we did, like, in 3 sort of levels. It was like, after already the digger coming in and digging it out, they couldn't, like, there's only a point and, like, so thick that the digger can't actually grab it out, and so I'm in the shed there, and he's just grabbing it and moving on to the other side, and this is their backyard, and I mean it's just like, and this family here, just a little preview I'll put on the story. The son actually wanted to speak, and so he actually has videos of him running out of the house, and they literally just escaped as the flood was coming in. They could see it, like literally jumping over fences.
Hmm.
And these are photos.
Amazing. And you can see the thickness. You see that?
Yeah, you can. And I've seen some of the pictures where the mud came up halfway up a car.
Oh, halfway. There was a house yesterday, and because I'm about 187. It was, you can actually see the markings on some of the buildings, and is reaching about 3 meters plus. So it's it's deep.
There's no reporting on this, hey?
You might be able to see it on that one.
You
can definitely there's a line where you can see where the water basically stopped, and it just sat there for, like that's that looks good at the moment. Like I can't wait to grab all these photos from all these other people and just put it all together. They're all going to send it to me later. But these guys got lucky.
Look at the mud on the chair. Look at the mud on the chairs. See the mud on the chairs there? That's how high it was. That be about right? I mean, that would have to be covered. That thing covered in mud, or was it pulled from mud? What do you think?
It was high, like I'm saying, like that house. Literally, it was over my head, and I'm 180. It was over 2 meters. Yeah.
Inside the house, I've seen it almost to the top. And so people actually, to escape, they actually punched holes in their ceilings, right, and to get into the attic. Yes,
you can see that on my previous post. There's Eskdale, which is like 10 times worse. It looks like I walked through Afghanistan, and this is all the orchards too. They look like that now, because this area in particular, there's a lot of organic farming or wineries and apple picking, and there's a lot of harvesting around here. So that's gonna take a massive toll on New Zealand now, like massive. People have no idea what's going to happen in the next 3 months. This is going to change everything. Yeah, this isn't...
Rosie, are these the types of images that you've seen in Canadian mainstream media or not?
I've only seen these shared to me. Yeah, it's not really being discussed. It's I think the death toll was at 11, and that's kind of where it was. Oh, look at the balloon. And of course, the disaster happening in Ohio is being talked about. And
you see here, you can see the mud here. This is literally like above my head.
That is, I mean, 1938. 1938. That's trending at the moment. 1938. This sort of thing has happened before. So it's not as if it's unusual, but the point is that nobody got any warning. 1931, yeah. Nobody got any warning.
No. They had, it was on orange, and then all of a sudden, last minute, it turned red. But by the time it turned red, people were lucky to get out. So there was no warnings.
Some of the media was saying that some people got like 20 seconds.
As we speak now, there's a whole new lot of rain coming down from. It's already got surface flooding in Auckland, and it's coming on down. And looking at the radars, 100% it's geoengineered. There was, over the last couple of days, they have been using EMF over Hawke's Bay considerably. But one thing that we're eventually probably going to get to here is the actual motives. Why would they do this? And of course, there are multiple reasons, and that's something we can go into as well.
Mm.
So would mud crunch a truck like that? Is that just the impact of the mud? Is that how fast it happened? Or because like the doors are bent forward? That's mind-blowing.
Some of it might be slash, do you think? Slash? Is that some of it slash?
Well, the way the doors are folded.
Well, basically that whole everything you see there was basically a river from the people that I spoke to at the vineyard. He said that he watched the whole thing, and that's the same area where the whole house moved about 3 kilometers. So like it was just like literally the whole valley was just covered up to like that height of where the house was basically.
And this is a week ago, or that had happened. The cyclone was
Yeah.
just. It's what is it? Day 7 now? Day 8?
I think day 8. Is it, Nigel? Sorry, I think yeah, it was day 8. It was a week ago, like last week, Friday. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I already have
too wild.
heard news of one person who has driven off where there used to be a bridge. He drove off and was killed because the bridge was gone, and he was just driving the usual route, and he was killed. So, there's still fatalities happening from all of this.
Yeah, like this boat here of this lady's property, like she doesn't know whose it was. It just turned up.
Stormbird.
They got no idea. They're like, we still don't know whose it is, but we'll figure it out. It's still in use. Like it's still in use, so which is great for the owner, but they just don't know whose it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how was the
Yeah,
south?
FEMA, man. They were like entire gigantic ships sent over.
How was the South Island affected?
The South Island is in drought at the moment.
How funny is that, eh? It's in drought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of pictures of the mud. It's being so thick, and then it dries quickly, and it's cracked, and it looks like something from Mad Max. Yeah, it's very, very, very hard to watch this. My heart goes out to all of you in New Zealand.
Yeah, this part here is like it just hit me, eh? Like imagine that just all covered, basically 3 meters plus worth of water. Like that's insane. That's unreal amount of, like, there was not one green bit of grass just sticking out like that. It was okay. Everything looked bent, broken, and like, yeah, even like parts, even the road, like some of the roads, like there's massive like dents and stuff like that and cracks, like when you're driving going through these areas, and like the whole thing's like they've had to like make their own, like put gravel and dirt on top of it because there's massive dips or holes, and because obviously cars have come crashing down with the water and things like that. Like that this truck here is just stagnant. It's just full of metal, and it's yeah, can't move.
It's all waterlogged, stuck in there. Oh, and this is the where the wineries.
Yeah, this is where the winery is, and this is clean. This is once it's cleaned out, and yeah, I've got a video of just overseeing from his house and just seeing it. Problem is it's very sensitive to talk to people because they're just, like they've just lost everything, and so they're like, who are you? What are you doing? And so you just have to be there, help them clean up the house, and it makes them feel more at ease. They're like, okay, like how come, what's your story? And like, well, actually I've come from Australia, like I'm from New Zealand, but I live in Australia and I've come to help you guys, like, and I just want to hear your story and what is, how did it happen? And it's just crazy. Like this house, this is where it really got me. I made it live, and I think it hit like over 20,000 views on Facebook, and I'm going around in this house. This is like definitely one of the worst ones I've seen, and but that whole area is basically like that. Like all the hundreds of houses are like that, and there's a hole in the roof, and you can see where they actually try to escape through, and it was just like, yeah, it's just crazy.
Not in this house. Okay. Wow.
I had a report come through. that the initial search and rescue were in an inflatable dinghy going through, and they were tapping on the roofs to see if anyone was in the roof cavity, and their boat was going over the top of power lines.
Yep. Yeah, I just got I just seen a video from, I think it's called MFST, Miss Productions. I can't remember. I'll share it on my Facebook, and they just dropped a little video where they put a whole bunch of confirmations of people just coming on these lifeboats, picking up people from bloody roofs and stuff. It's unreal. Like another boat. Like, I asked the guy there, and he's like, I don't know, man. Don't know where it came from. I was like, all right, yeah. And the worst part is on the beach now. There's all the logging, like all the pine trees. They've all just come up, and now the whole beach looks like a garbage bin, you know. And the thing is, it's not it's not driftwood because it's fresh, and there's cuttings on it, so you don't naturally find trees that are cut, you know, like by chainsaws and stuff like that. They're proper man-made cuts in them, and so you're thinking, well, how did all those pine trees get there? And so it actually goes back, I think it was 2017 at the Greens. Please, again, I'm not great with numbers and times and all that, but and I feel like Nigel's a very educated man. He might be able to help me on this one. But the 2017, I think the Greens, they stopped everyone by burning any more trees, and so they just left them where they cut them. And so what's happened is all the rain has just pushed them all out, and this is actually what's done more damage as well, you see, because they float, and so they've just gone clank, 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 and just smashed everything on the way. So, like, was it part of it? You know, like, I don't. It's a big question, but, like, you know, what, did they leave it there because they saw this coming, or, like, I don't know. You know, it's nuts.
Well, going back to you know, the plans and so forth. Of course, the World Economic Forum and United Nations plan, which Jacinda Ardern in 2019 stood at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Goalkeepers Summit and stated that her government was going to fully implement the Agenda 2021 and 2030 into New Zealand policy making. So there was basically pretty much an admission that we were going into a full-blown socialist democracy, which they now claim that New Zealand is. And the planning for that is, of course, 20-minute cities. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. Or
it's happening in Canada here. It's some of our biggest cities are already being turned into 15-minute cities. It's already happening. Trudeau is right on board. Yeah, he's all proud of it too.
Yeah, and also you know, in all of that is the idea that we all walk around and we all cycle around, but you know, so cars are out, you know, bicycles are in, and you know, in order to achieve the depopulation and so forth, they are hitting. If you look at what happened, it has hit all the key food producing areas in New Zealand: Hawke's Bay, Northland, and so forth. Northland, you know, I've heard guys talking about kurma just being wiped out, kurma and potatoes. We're not going to see already when you go into a supermarket, you can't see potatoes for sale, you can't see onions for sale, you can't see flour for sale. You know, you can still get it in places, but it's commonly not available. And so, you know, what we have to look at now is, you know, this is the famine or the future food shortages and inflated prices in vegetables that we're going to see in, you know, 6 months, 8 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Nigel said, for me, when I heard, you know, Northland and Hawke's Bay, like, it's just you can't perfectly, you know, you couldn't even make it up, honestly. Like, the biggest food producers in our country in terms of vegetables and all that. And, you know, the droughts, funny enough, how you mentioned droughts in the South Island, that's where most of the cattle is, most of, you know, the meat and all that comes from too. Venison and, you know, cows and the sheep and
Eggs.
Eggs, yeah. Oh, bloody eggs, eh?
Yeah, that's it's happening here too. Yeah, eggs are expensive here too. And
Yeah.
there's farmers being made by the government to dump out thousands of gallons of milk. Once they reach their quota, they're not allowed to process any more of the milk. So they basically milk it from the cows and then they dump it on the concrete. It's heartbreaking. It's it's definitely a global thing. But this is just I'm not too sure what happened with Jason. He's kind of tucked in the back here. Oh, hang on, he's back. Yep, I see you. I see you back there. Yeah. So what is the plan?
I had a bubble sound coming out. I had a bubble sound coming out from and I couldn't really understand. It sounded like you were like speaking alien, so I just left and came back in, and now it's very clear again. But I wanted to just add into something because I was listening. I continue to listen. This whole thing about climate change. I mean, the fact that the geoengineering is so rampant all around the world, and at the same time, how can they even claim that there's climate change according to mankind? I mean, if there is climate change, which is generally natural, but if the climate is changing, which in an adverse reaction, wouldn't it have a lot to do with the fact that they're messing with it, but with geoengineering? I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to work it out. If we weren't geoengineering, then we could very easily blame climate change on something else, even though over millions of years it warms and cools, warms and cools, warms and cools, and we've just come out of a mini ice age.
Well, don't you know?
But if we weren't,
it's all the plastic straws.
It's all that Starbucks,
Mate, the climate changes every day. It's hot and cold every day. It goes up and goes down. We've had it for how long the Earth's been around for. I don't know.
I remember historically, England now is a sort of cold place, but I remember historically that a few hundred years ago you could grow great wine in England because it was so warm. It had a flourishing wine industry. Now it's moved over more like to Spain, in those areas where they're more warm. But yeah, I mean, it's completely natural. I don't understand I do understand because people are sucked in by TV and they spend too much time watching TV and watching sports and watching the news. That's the real problem. That's why people can't figure it out, because they get this little normal bubble.
I want to sort of look at something here, and that is that we have geoengineering, and then there is another. We could also say, okay, there's this whole subject of climate change, and that man's pollution is somehow altering the climate and so forth, which I don't really subscribe to. I don't think that we have that much effect, which is not to say that I don't think. I mean, I think that we should be cleaning up and not polluting and so forth. Great idea. But to then cut out all fossil fuels, to close down Marsden Point here, the refinery here, which actually, by the way, produces bitumen, and now there's no, we have to import bitumen for the roads to. But okay, going back to geoengineering, we have geoengineering, but then we also have the natural climate of the Earth and how that is influenced by the sun, by the magnetosphere, which is influenced by the sun, and so forth. There's a lot going on, and really to think that man is the one that's only controlling the weather is a very kind of like, in my view, because the sun has a huge influence. The magnetosphere has been shown to weaken quite considerably the last couple of years. There is talk about in the last couple of years that the Earth's core has stopped burning and is actually reversing. There is also the magnetic pole flip that is impending and happens over a period of, eventually it kind of, we get a situation every 3,600 years or so. So all of these are all different dynamics, but all I'm saying with this clone is it's clear where that's coming from, and it isn't coming from the sun, the pole flip or anything like that, being engineered, and we can.
We kind of missed that last little bit there. You cut out,
Okay.
Nigel. Yeah, you did. So
Oh,
everybody
really?
internal, yeah, is having technical difficulties.
Yeah, interesting. I was just saying that so we have geoengineering, we have the pole flip, the sun's influence, and so forth. And what I'm saying is that what we saw was very clearly geoengineering, wasn't anything else for the Cyclone Gabrielle.
Mm.
Am I cutting out again?
No. It's all just sinking in. Oh, and Jason's muted. So if he's trying to talk, we're not hearing him. Can't blame that one on Ardern. Nice try though.
No, that was me. That was definitely me. Yeah, because we are in a cyclone season, which is normal, but definitely is. I mean, come on, this has been going on for decades. We're at a point now where they're almost coming out and like they're not really hiding it that much anymore. I mean, probably within 2 or 3 years, just like the whole thing with the narrative turning against the COVID vaccines, right? The whole thing like, oh, they're safe, and now they're like, oh, they're not that safe, they're not that safe. So we're going to come to this point where we're shifting, going for a transitional stage, and it's going to happen one way or another that it's going to be very mainstream, and it already is mainstream in some countries. Thailand, now that's something to watch for. I'm a bit concerned about that because they're doing a deal for 5 years of geoengineering, starting real soon, and that's like right next door. Yeah, I'm about an hour away from the border from Cambodia, and then about an hour away from another border from Thailand, maybe 2 or 3 hours, but not that far. Not that far. So if they start and they don't, from what I can see here, I don't see any evidence of geoengineering here. So I don't see them actually doing it anymore. Perhaps they've learned from what happened during the war. Perhaps they've decided to give it a miss. But that is a concern now for me because Thailand has decided, and Cambodia. I've been to Cambodia many times recently, and I don't see any evidence of it. So not like what I experienced in China. China was really obvious. It was so obvious. So is what you see there in some cases when you're looking at England and America and you see all the grids in the skies and all that kind of stuff. Very, very obvious. But Vietnam and Cambodia, not very obvious at all. And obviously, Thailand hadn't been doing it before either. So this whole region, I don't know, is it going to take long before this starts here? Am I going to have to move again?
Well, it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting that the area that I went to, I mean, Eskdale and Waiheke, Waiheke, sorry, can't pronounce it, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I've only been to 4 different places, and to think that's just the Hawke's Bay area, and it's not even half of it. Like, imagine the whole rest of the East Coast of Northland, what it looks like. It's crazy.
I heard stories of cemeteries being washed away too. Like cemeteries just cleared out and the bones of the loved ones are gone. It's just so sad.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything online or anything yet, but I actually, funny enough, drove to one today and I took a video as I was driving through. There was a whole bunch of cars in the digger, but I didn't see any fresh ground pulled out. And I didn't see anyone there, so I was going to ask something, but there was no one around to ask anything. So, yeah.
One of my friends videoed a fleet of speedboats going along the coast looking for bodies, combing for a couple of days ago. Now, they wouldn't be doing that, by the way, if there weren't bodies to look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know,
yeah, exactly.
So, you know,
And
going
what
back
was
to the
interesting?
numbers thing again, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
you wouldn't. Yeah. Go on.
No, you go.
You're both so polite. You could be Canadian.
No, just saying. Yeah. I was just saying that, you know, that they must have had some reason to be going out there and looking. Obviously, they knew that there were bodies showing up for them to be sending a fleet of speedboats, jet boats along the coast, and there were probably I didn't count, probably about 15. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm with these guys with Man Up, and they employed a search and rescue team, and I was going to go with them and and show what was going on with that. And all of a sudden, Civil Defence said, "No, you can't come with us. You guys are not qualified." Blah blah. It's like, hang on, it's like the first time that's ever happened. We've done other events and throughout our lifetime, and we've always been able to go and help as volunteers. And all of a sudden, now we can't do search and rescue. Why is that?
It's like in last year when all that flooding was happening in Australia. I heard that you had to be fully vaccinated with a vax pass to even fill sandbags.
Oh, they just started here at the I think it was at the showgrounds, like where a lot of people pick up donations, things like that. You have to get rat tests now to show that you're not positive for COVID.
That's right.
Oh, really?
That's right. What's up with that? Seriously, what is up with that? I mean, they already started doing it. There's been no requirement at all. But from my understanding, the military's in there now, so maybe they just didn't like civilians doing it. Maybe they just didn't trust civilians doing the mahi, doing the work. So they just decided to come over and do something instead of just hanging out. Because have you seen much of the military presence at all? Or yeah, let's talk about the military. Have you seen much of their presence at all? So you got crickets going on there?
I've seen I can count 6 trucks. And
I have.
Oh, you have?
There's some, but there's next to none, because here there's pretty much, from my understanding, what I can see in conclusion of this area, it's it's not all good, but it's in terms of it's okay because everyone knows where everyone is. People just need help clearing out things, and they can drive to and for where they're from, and they've got places to stay and all that sort of thing. Versus anything after Eskdale, it's all just closed off. The only way to go through there, you'd have to be a military or flying for a chopper or something like that. And so their presence is more that way, apparently.
So how are you guys keeping your spirits up? You must be exhausted, absolutely exhausted. You get the people standing up and volunteering kind of help out, or is it just everybody's just in a, I don't know, I'd assume a zombie state?
It's strange because if you go to Hastings, everyone's just driving around, they're going to cafes, drinking coffee, it's nothing. Everyone's just continuing their life.
That's right.
And when I first drove through, I've seen guys playing golf and milk trucks going this way, not that way, towards where I was going, and I'm like, that way, you guys gotta get that way. The people are there. There's people probably still stuck in the roofs. Can you go and help them? And it's just everyone's just buying whatever. When I go to the grocery store here, everyone's just relaxed and just chilling out like nothing. I'm like, bro, go over there and help people, man. They need help. And I don't know. It's just zombified, eh?
You either have
Why
it or
do you think they're playing it down? Sorry, Judy. Sorry, I butted in real fast. Why do you think they're playing it down?
Well, it's all part of it, eh? It's all part of what they've engineered already. It's, you know, the last 2
One
years
thing
been the Trojan horse bit, and then it's just going to get very more interesting from here on out. So, but yeah. So what were you going to say now?
Go ahead, Nigel.
Been this, my opinion is there has always been this idea that you know, an authority, you know better than anyone else, and so then you have the right to choose what information you tell people and what you can't, and obviously you see this shocking situation and you think, oh, we couldn't possibly tell anybody about it. They're just people, you know. Well, what makes the authorities so much more, you know, than you or the next person? It's like, you know, and as somebody pointed out to me a couple of days ago, is, you know, if you lost everything, and or you lost a loved one or something like that, you would rather know. Most people would rather know, I mean, there was any hint of this happening, then be told 3 weeks later, and also be realize that for the last week. Sorry, I cut out there, did I?
A little bit.
Did. You said to be told 3 weeks later.
Hello.
We're having this. All the spooks are spooking tonight, I tell you. I've even got a dark background today. This is more like a Halloween trip.
Did I say the wrong thing?
I know, you just said you were finishing the sentence and you said 3 weeks later, and then it stopped. Now you're back. Now you're back fully.
3 weeks
So
later.
let's carry on.
Yes. 3 weeks later, the person finds out that not only have they lost their loved one, they've also been lied to for the last 3 weeks.
They think that ignorance is bliss, when in fact knowledge is power. So you know, you can't. No, I would rather know too.
Absolutely.
Knowledgeable wisdom. Knowledge is power, but knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Yeah. Right. People like to think outside the box, and
I just got word.
Box.
You just got word what? There's so many cliffhangers.
We're into the second hour, and Billy's on his way in, and so this should add. Yeah. Billy's on his way in, so this should add up, and this is what he's going to bring up the north now, because he's in the north. So you know, the whole area around him had internet. The whole area around him had internet, but he didn't have internet for 10 days, and he had to call up whoever the service was, Spark or whatever. He had to give him a hurry up, you know, give him a whatever, you know.
Yeah, because I've messaged people from the north and no one replied, and I've been asking people, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, okay," and I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I feel like the cell towns are down soon because they're not responding.
Yeah, well, he's had he's been without internet for 10 days in his area, and he couldn't. He was very confused.
So am I. I'd like to know what version of technical difficulty he's going to
have. Stop.
Wow.
We should have a technical difficulty bingo card.
Yeah.
I think we've done 5 so far. We just
who's got mic cut out? Nigel.
And I wonder what happened to Mr. Ruich here to talk about he was going to be talking about our dam bursting, which I guess if he doesn't come on soon, we'll have to break that up. And probably Nigel, you'll probably have a strong opinion on that dam. Do you at all?
Well, I have seen media, I've heard reports and so forth on it. I see in the Gisborne Herald today, they came out with an article that people, that a lady or people were very critical of Genesis Electricity because they had released the dam, they had released this water, and the woman was saying that how come they had released this water when they already people had numerous warnings about the severity of this storm, and they go in and don't release it at that moment in time, but then release it right when the cyclone is hitting.
Mm.
And I mean, I think she's got a valid point there, you know. So there are also arguments as to how much water was released. They say they only released a small amount, like 1% or something. I forget the actual figure, but people were saying, well, there was a hell of a lot more than that. So,
Yeah.
But when it's already raining heavily, 1% could make all the difference as well. So you know, the point is, it was absolutely, if that dam was to be released to take the stress off, it should have been done days ago, days prior.
Even though there was no warning? Or do you think that they would have known and they should have done it? Is it done on a scheduled time? Releasing the water?
Well, they are saying that they have to hold on to certain, you know, it's sort of like a, how do you say, a rules thing, that they have to hold on to a certain amount unless something happens. But, you know, the question then is, how long do you wait when there's this, you know, a storm warning coming before you actually go, aha, we better release that water or there's going to be a disaster.
Just everything lined up perfectly to fail, isn't it?
Well, you know, it's so exactly that you have to think, well, is this really a coincidence or a very well-planned event?
Mm.
I'm going with the kind of half planned and let's see how it goes sort of thing. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
plan
I can tell you-
definitely, helping hand definitely. The thing is, the problem with these people that organize this stuff, is that a lot of the time it tends to backfire on them. I mean, it had some very interesting and big gains short term, but long term, they tend to put themselves into more jeopardy long term. So this is the sort of situation that we're anti-vaxxers and yoga moms and all that kind of stuff. We're just like murderers and crazy people. But now it's like, you know, half those people are actually out there digging up dirt, but we're in. Yeah, so it's like the exact opposite now, right? So this time they're actually out there doing something, but the people who are watching TV just really don't care and are not bothered. Yeah. So, you know, what can you say? They're just in this little tiny bubble, which is really disappointing.
Well, I want to tell you another little interesting story in the last few days, and that is that we went down to Hastings because I was actually trying to organise some international aid. And on last Sunday night, I called Civil Defence because I went, we've got to get something happening here. So I called Civil Defence, and of course it was after hours, so I had to get through to the after hours number. And so I got whoever was managing Civil Defence for the whole of New Zealand for that time. And what I needed to find out was what things were most needed and wanted, you know, in the emergency, like, you know, blankets, search and rescue personnel, generators. What was it that's most needed? Well, I called the managers of Civil Defence that were for the New Zealand, they couldn't tell me, right? So when we went down to Hastings, I went to the central hub in the Hastings Showgrounds where the military have their setup, and there are volunteers there, and they're all putting food parcels together. And so I told them I wanted to do organise some international aid, which I had people in the US arranging. I was arranging with. And I said, well, like I'm trying to find out what's most needed and wanted. And they were a little bit confused because nobody really knew. And so they took me over to another building and we talked there, and they went, well, maybe, that guy over there, maybe he knows what's most needed and wanted. Well, in the end, he gave me an email address, and I wrote to that email address, and nobody responded. What I concluded out of all of this was very, very interesting. And here is my conclusion. There are a lot of very good people, and they're all honest people who are working and trying to help. And they are in the army, they're in the police, they're in voluntary, and so forth. And they get orders from the person slightly above them, right? And that person gets the orders from someone slightly above them, and so. But nobody really knows what's going on. Aside from, they know that if they put a bottle of water in the package and pass it to the next person, and the next person puts some cookie time cookie in, and the next person puts, so a can of Vegemite or whatever, and so they know to do that. But nobody really knows what's going on. And what I concluded is the decisions are coming from so high on up that we don't know where that's coming from, and quite likely it's coming from above government.
Well, I actually mentioned I was in the waiting room, and we've never been to 5, so I don't know what this is going to look like in terms of cameras. So if it looks really odd, then I might just go into the backstage and watch a little bit.
Only one way to find out.
The frame.
Okay, Billy, I'm bringing you up here.
Is there only one way to find out?
There we go.
Bring him in.
Oh, there we go. That's doable.
It worked. Billy. Hey, Lingo. Hey, Nige. Hey, Sister Rosie. Hey, Jace. Well, I've just
one of the welcome.
Thank you, Kia ora. Yes, my apologies for being late. I've just got back from having my first probation officers meeting today because of my my protest against lockdown harm charges that I've been found guilty of, and it was quite an experience. So my apologies to you and to you all and the listeners for being late today. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jace.
It's okay.
It's no problem. I was very loose. Yeah. I was very loose at the timing.
That's what you've been missing, is him.
I was like, in and out. Whenever you want to come on, it's okay. It's all right.
No, not at all. No, you got two good guys that can talk to you about the state of things in New Zealand. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, you would. Okay, let's talk about what happened in the north. Now, what happened to you? Let's just start off with the flood there, because that's how this all kicked off, actually, in the north, didn't it?
Yeah, it started here, but
the whole thing.
It was strange though, because so we reside in the far northwestern part of the coast, and probably about 2 hours northwest of Whangarei, the largest regional city and town in the North Island of New Zealand. And it was really strange. About 2 or 3 days before the main the cyclone actually arrived, we had some very, very, very strange atmospheric lighting occurrences up here. I mean, incredibly strange. And it was really, really strange. In fact, I think I mentioned it in one of the podcasts that I've done recently. It was very, very weird. We had strange light sort of appear across the entire sky around about 7 and 8, 9 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes later. And then a couple of days after that, then the cyclone arrived. It arrived with wind, and then the wind vanished, and then the rain appeared. Then they both arrived. But what happened was, we got a good chunk of it, but it moved to head towards southeast very, very quickly from us. So even though we did feel the full brunt of it, it wasn't here long enough to be as destructive as what it was in the East Coast Tairāwhiti region of New Zealand on the East Coast. So what happened with us, we massive amounts of forestry down up here, and lots of sort of very superficial infrastructural damage. You know, we didn't lose any bridges. We didn't lose, you know, big power lines or power stations or anything like that. But we did lose power completely for the region for 5 days solid, and we lost internet and communications for a full 10 days, which was pretty horrendous to go through that after being so engaged in the world of device reliance. But it was, you know, we did well. We were flooded in our farm, and because we have a river that runs in the front of our place and a bridge that we use to get over to the other side to go to the rest, to access the rest of the world. But it was fairly, we were fairly blessed not to have the sort of damage that we've had around the country, especially on the eastern seaboard of New Zealand. But the thing that concerns me the most about all of this is the lawlessness that's going on down there. It's just out of control.
And what do you mean by lawlessness? If you want to explain to the Canadians here that are watching.
Sure, absolutely. So what we have right now, so we've got what's called a regional civil disaster emergency in a region of the southeast of the North Island called the Hawke's Bay. The Hawke's Bay region also crosses into an area called the East Coast, and really it's all one long big coast ranging from the very top of the bluff, if you like, of the coastline to the very southernmost part of a place called the Hawke's Bay. It was absolutely obliterated by the cyclone. Many deaths. We do suspect that it's been kept quite quiet what the true nature of the numbers of deaths are. But the one thing that we have had very, very serious reports about is the amount of looting, the amount of terror that's been inflicted by some of the gangs that inhabit those areas. And these are gangs these are obviously criminal gangs, and what they've done is they've seized the opportunity to basically enter homes that have been abandoned due to the flood. Lots of looting going on, but additionally to that, direct confrontation where gang members are going into houses, they're intimidating, threatening the occupants for their provisions. These stories of gang members positioning themselves in force and petrol and fuel stations, and people that are going in to get their fuel are getting, because it's rationed, they're getting stood over to release their fuel to the gang members. Unfortunately, we've also heard of reports of direct violence as well, stabbings, assaults, quite serious assaults. And so essentially what you have here, we have a socialist government that has been spending the last 5 years doing gender studies, the last 5 years giving out grants to these same gang organizations to help them rehabilitate themselves off methamphetamine, and instead of dealing with the root cause of the criminality that exists in these gangs. And most of them are of the problem that we've got here are indigenous Māori gangs. I'm Māori. I'm part of the Māori community here, and so what we're finding is that these gangs are not being confronted by the police. The commissioner of the New Zealand Police, Commissioner Andrew Costa, has come out and released a statement saying there's nothing to see here. It's all just rumour and political soccer. But he cannot circumvent the fact that there are on the ground reports from people that are desperately begging for attention to their plight, that they are being assaulted, they're being harmed, hurt, and being robbed and burglaried, and under intense pressure from the gangs. And this is coming from multiple sources. This is not one or two social media influencers. These are people on the ground, ordinary citizens that are reporting this. And it's very, very sad. And we have a very woke government here that's not realizing the depth of the issue here, and they haven't deployed the resources that they need to put a stop to this. Very, 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 very sad. Terrifying. That's what's
Absolutely.
happening.
So there's a question here in the comments. Somebody asked if you could clarify what kind of gangs, because we don't have that kind. I mean, we've got like the biker gangs, and we've got other types. But if you could explain that, please.
Sure. Now, in New Zealand, our gangs are basically broken down into Indigenous gangs and non-Indigenous gangs. Now, Indigenous people are called Māori people, and we've got Pacific Island gangs, we've got European or non-Māori gangs that sort of operate throughout New Zealand. But in the some of the rural areas, the presence of the Indigenous gangs is much more pronounced, because there are big rural Māori communities in the area. And so what we're talking about here, we're talking a mixture of Indigenous Māori biker gangs as well, who sort of are now have developed a very sophisticated way of extortion, drug dealing, drug business, and just general criminal trade networks and activity that they do. And sometimes they're car gangs, sometimes they're biker gangs, but at the end of it, I mean, regardless of what they're riding, they're criminals. And so, unfortunately, in these particular areas that we're talking about, and Nigel would be able to correspond with us, is that these huge Māori communities, Indigenous communities, therefore the Indigenous gangs are present in those communities, of which they recruit out of to become members into those gangs. It's a terrible thing. And so what's happened is that there's a good portion of the Māori community that aren't involved in these gangs. And so what's happening is now they're forming militia and community security groups that are setting up their own roadblocks and confronting these people. But that's a very, very, very dangerous situation. We have a lot of our people in rural New Zealand have firearms, and if they keep it like that, then that's someone's going to get shot. If the police don't intervene, someone's going to get shot, because one of these Māori farmers that live in these areas are not going to tolerate gang members who they don't like anyway turn up and try and extort their provisions and their things out of them. So it's a very, very dangerous situation, and really it should give us all a cautionary wake-up call to realize how important it is to, with the threat of, we've got the threat of a global war, we've got the threat of massive food shortages, the breakdown of the global food supply chain, the overall supply chain is threatened to be broken, and then an economic collapse. This should all give us caution to deal with the idea that when this finally does crack open, how are we going to do this? How are we going to deal with it? How are we going to protect our families, protect our community from this type of abuse? Because it's going to happen again. Make no bones about it.
What do you think is the solution, Billy?
Thank you, Nigel. So I think what they need to do, this is how ridiculous it is. We had, of course, that famous protest down at Parliament in Wellington, March last year, a year ago, where we had, a very, very large and peaceful anti-COVID-19 legislation protest on the lawns of our capital building down at Parliament in Wellington. And what happened there is they dispatched about 1,500 police to go and end up assaulting all of these poor people that were ordinary people, absolutely, educationalists, scientists, lawyers, doctors, policemen, military people. And they were down there and they got heavied out of there. They got beaten up and all that. Well, what they've done so far in the Hawke's Bay East Coast region, they've dispatched only an extra 145 staff distributed across an area that would be probably about 400 or 500 kilometers long. So that's a very, 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 very thin extra amount of resource that they've deployed into these areas. So what they need to do is they either need to deploy the resources and commit the resources at the same scale that they use against these innocent, peaceful protesters. They need to get them down. They're very smart. And what they probably need to do is augment that with probably the New Zealand Army as well. I would suggest probably the military police. And they've used those military resources to deal with COVID-19 through Operation Protect, which was a combination of civilian police working with military assets and resources to police roadblocks, preventing what we call region crossover by unvaccinated or unapproved people. So if they've done that, they should do that again. But this is why it all reeks so very, very badly, because I'm here. I'm a sovereignty. I'm a rights and freedoms, democracy, decentralization advocate, and human rights. And yet, what I'm seeing here is a disaster setup that definitely needs the intervention to protect these communities. Because we're talking about literally probably a couple of thousand of these gang members that are doing this, and so 145 extra police is not going to deal with it, because these are vicious criminal gangs here. There's nothing good about them. I've got family that are in these gangs. I know how they operate, and it's not good. So, in short answer, they need to deploy a heck of a lot more staff to deal with these violent criminals. If they can meet the same scale of commitment that they deployed against the peaceful protesters in Parliament, they'll have a good chance at dealing with it. But they are refusing at capital level to say that there's a problem there. Meanwhile, I just don't want to hear about people getting shot and raped, because that's what these guys do.
Hey, Billy, we've got Papa Jones backstage. I'd like to bring him up here so he can give us a bit of an update, how the food drive is going, and some more information about the talk about. So here we are. Hi, Papa Hone.
Yeah, kia ora whanau. Kia ora Billy.
Tēnā koe.
Bro, you were my hero on that guitar, bro, back in the days, bro. Hey, man, look, I just caught the end of your kōrero, bro. So, let's start with the gangs. So I've been in touch with them, mate. I've heard from people down there. Yeah, the gangs are playing up down there, bro, for real. But not everybody is, not even the fellas in the gangs are happy with the young ones that are doing this, because a lot of the stuff that's happening is not just gangs. It's people running around high on meth. It's people running around that haven't got any meth anymore, that are losing their minds and trying to get stuff to sell to buy more of that. The problem down there right now, as you said, Billy, it's atrocious. Hey, babe, we just got a message from somebody on the ground there. We just finished listening to it about 5 minutes ago, mate. And so there's hundreds of people that are dead down there, bro. Hundreds. The person that we just got the message from, like just literally 5 minutes ago, she's working on the ground, and they're finding bodies in the roofs of houses where they couldn't get out. They're finding them everywhere, bro. And the people that are actually out there looking for the rescue people that are doing this are losing their minds. I spoke to one fella that had been in the army there's one fella been in the army 20 years, bro. 20 years, bro. Went to Afghanistan. He said he's never seen so much life gone, in all his years of being in the army. Right now, brothers and sisters, there is no police down there. I went down to Ruatoria yesterday, bro, to go and check it out, so I hear a lot of stories, but I don't listen to talk. I go down there and have a look, bro. And Rachel and I spent 18 hours on the road. We went down to as far as you can go. We got down to Ruatoria. On our way there, bro, we passed these cops, and say they've got cops in airplanes, bro, busting marijuana down there. Bro, honestly, on our way down to Ruatoria, they are busting whānaus, and all the children are all up on the marae, bro. So they put all the children up at the marae. So when I took down all the stuff that I had in the back of my van, Ruatoria turned it away. So we dropped it off back into Kaha where all these kids were. So when we talk about the so-called government, the so-called authorities, I don't know what they're doing with their money in Wellington, bro, but it ain't been spent on what it should be. And then we just heard about just now about the amount of crimes that are going on down there, bro. And this is like only like 5 minutes old, right? And this poor solo mum, and she's a hard worker too, you know, and she's down there and she's lost stuff. But she sent this like 10-minute message to me and Rach, and we were listening to it, bro. And I won't go over it because it's too much. You know what I mean? It's too much. Bro, I'm driving over the motorway today, and I just break down crying. Lost the plot, bro. People are driving past me. They probably think me and her are having an argument, bro. But I just lost my mind, and I'm not even there. I'm not even there, bro. So if that says how bad things are, that's how bad things are. But here's the good side of things, bro. Funny. The good side of things is this, is that normal people like us, the actual power, the power in the whole world is us. When people get that in here, that the power is in the people, it's not in these people sitting in their high chairs. The power is in our hands. We're making more movement than the bloody government is, you know what I mean? So, Jason, I sent you that thing, bro, to tell you that we've got people wanting to fly stuff here and there, eh?
Yeah,
so I
right,
asked for an airstrip there, bro, right? So the airstrips that are there have been taken control of by the army and the police, civil defense. So they've taken control of these. So, you know, us being freedom fighters, bro, we always find the way. So we now have us a landing strip. Oh, is it? We thought we had us a landing strip. But I'm just saying, you know, we're all working the hardest that we can to get help down there, to help our fellow citizens down there, you know, our countrymen. And the hardest thing that I've struggled with yesterday, coming back and going to Ruatoria, was seeing the waste of resources, bro. You know what I mean? Okay, dope's a bit of a problem in New Zealand, but right now, bro, we got people getting held hostage. People that have to turn their generators off at night, bro, so the gangs don't hear them, so that they don't get robbed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the real issues that we have right now are very serious. What's going on down there? Okay, and then not taking anything away from the north. So the latest thing that we've heard from the north is so Dargaville, Hokianga and all that, is that they've been hit last night, and that's coming from the ground. So Rachel and I are going to head off there on Sunday or Monday, guys, so we can get eyes on the ground. We have to see it to believe it. And so, and we don't know who's credible, you know, the sources are, who's credible, who's not. So we go there ourselves, bro, just to get what's there. So Ruatoria and all those ones down on State Highway 35, they're coping, they're not too bad. They're telling us to send all our resources to the Hawke's Bay. And then just about an hour ago, guys, we get a phone call from people up in the north to say stuff was sent up there to the north, bro. And they think that people have tittied with the, you know, they've stolen some of that. You know, some of the stuff that got sent up. The people that took it up had a grab at it, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So my
yeah.
biggest thing, so Jason, because we're working together, that's
Yes.
why I sent you all those questions, bro. It's a security thing. If people
Right.
are willing to give us their stuff, we need to make sure that we have a good security system set up for our donations. Because I'm sad to tell everybody, and you already know this, but the undesirables are taking advantage of this. But can I say one more thing? It's not just the undesirables, bro. It's also the businesses. Okay, so people are
Yeah.
taking advantage of businesses are taking advantage of what's happening down there. It's a crisis, and here they are putting up prices and all this sort of stuff, bro.
Yeah, wicked.
So that's all I got to give you guys, mate. I got to go, bro. I got stuff on right now. I got my mum and my dad's unveiling tomorrow, so I'm trying to sort that out too.
Can I ask you just one question before you go? I just want to dispel one rumor that's going about. Now, some people have mentioned that there may even be policemen disguised as gang members running around causing trouble. What do you know about that?
yeah. Well, can I say one thing, Amen? Like really, hey, really, hey, we're in the middle of a crisis, bro, hey, and there's people saying stuff like that. If it's happening, it's happening. If those cops get found out about, bro, by the gangs, then they're gonna wish they never played that game. You know what I mean?
That's what I would have
So
thought.
I really, the answer to is I really don't know, but I really believe there's bigger issues, eh, bro? You know this,
Yeah.
bro. But if I do find anything out about that, I'll let you guys know. But right now,
Right.
we're on the game, guys, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. And you guys know I don't talk shit, bro. To be honest, I just tell it the way it is. But thank you for inviting Rach and I onto your live today. You guys have a beautiful day. I've got so much to do today, I can't stay on. But I love your guys' work.
Thank you so much.
And hey,
Thank you, mate.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Rachel,
much.
power
too.
to the people. Power to the people, man. What are we up to? It's time to unite, bro. It's time for us to be one. That's what I
Absolutely.
say. Hey,
Awesome, bro.
good to see you, Billy. Good to see you, bro.
Hey,
Yeah.
Papa Hone,
Hey.
whakarongo mai, e hokianga kei kona e au. Hokianga kei kona e au. Kei kona e nai nei.
Kia ora, bro.
Ka hoki mai
Oh,
koe
so-
ki te kāinga. Ka hoki
Ai.
mai koe ki te taku kāinga.
Ngā mihi ia.
Yeah,
Ngā
so
mihi,
make
brother.
sure I'll get your details off Jace, okay?
Yep. Thank you, my brother. Well, take
Kapoi.
care, sister. Good to see you there.
Thank you.
Brothers up the top there. I don't really know you properly, but man, good job you guys are all doing. Let's put the truth out there, eh, bro? But
Yeah.
before we do anything further, just make sure we keep it heading that direction. That's all I say. It's all about solutions, amen. Much love, Famine.
That's right. Working together, getting things done. Thank you.
Much love, bro. Thank you.
Bye, Rachel.
See you guys.
Bye, Rach.
Thank you.
So that was a little bit of Māori there. And the hoki mai, which is hey, you could come over here for some tucker, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, I was
Or
telling,
for a kōrero.
so I was telling them that I'm in the Hokianga now, where he was talking about, and I was telling them to come to me, to come to my home, and I'll get in touch with them. That's what I was saying to them. So
Ooh, my Māori's not that bad anymore.
yeah, doing pretty well, Jason. I guess I bet your Vietnamese is coming along well too, brother.
Not according to what he said earlier.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, he's not like Lingo. He's not
No,
like
not at
Lingo.
all. Lingo's like way up there.
Lingo is a sponge and he's a sieve.
I just like Japanese.
Yeah.
Love you, Jason.
Of course.
No, it's serious. They've got to deal with security down there. That's and now there's the threatening of another storm. Nigel, do you know what the latest is for the threat of the weather that's coming in down there?
Yes.
Have you heard any more?
Yeah, what I saw was that I mean, I've just checked the radars before I came onto this forum, and there was a lot over the last couple of days. I was seeing a lot of geoengineering over electromagnetic frequencies over Hawke's Bay and so forth, and I was like going, there was so much going on that I didn't even get to record the photos of it, which I usually do, but I just went, wow, look at that, and sure enough, what is happening at the moment is, when I looked at the and so forth, and I see all of this cloud, and it's all in this area. It's actually being generated in the area. It's not coming from anywhere else at the moment. And so then I hear that Auckland is there was like surface level flooding in Auckland, and it was heading down this way. But right at the moment, it's not raining outside, and I kind of I have an intuition, let's say, that this thing isn't going to hit us quite as bad as maybe what some people thought. I hope my intuition is right, but it certainly looks like they're trying real hard to create some more slips, some more havoc, and having said that, it won't take very much rain at all to have a significant number more slips, because there is the ground is so heavily inundated. We took a drive around locally in the last couple of days. We took a couple of drives into some really slip-ridden areas, and some areas we were in were really dodgy. I mean, one spot, the hillside was just about to come down on us practically, and we were like, whoa, and we reversed out of there pretty quickly. I said, I think we got the picture. Let's get out. So and there was one area, by the way, there was a digger, a reasonably sized digger, that was digging all the slip away, and right above it, about 100 foot up, there was a tree literally overhanging the road, and the only thing that was holding that bank up was the tree, and we were you could just about look at the your watch and go, well, how many minutes is it before that thing's going to come down? So yeah. I don't think we'll see probably the surface level, the flooding, but I think there will be a lot more slips still, and that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
What are they doing? Why aren't? Yeah, they're not taking any action. Go ahead, Louie. Sorry, mate.
When I was driving through a few of the places, and I ended up getting access for the closed roads or whatever, and it's nuts. Like, you're right, it's just absolutely destroyed. And then some of the photos you've seen like elsewhere, and it's just like, how do those roads even like get to that state? Like, does rain actually do that to roads? It's a lot of it goes back to what I was saying previously, how the beaches are just full of the logs that have been there for years, just chopped up and left there. So it's pretty crazy. But I'm just gonna say I have to go because someone keeps calling me, and I actually have another interview with Ionic, like David Icke, is it? And
awesome.
Yeah. So
wow.
just they keep coming in and out, and just got to get that word out because people need to know. So
keep going, mate. Keep going.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be following you. I don't know what
nice to talk to you, Lingo.
Like, what is it?
I'll send you the details. Rosa Convoy and Sailor Nation. Yeah.
I've been so outdated with stuff. Like, I'm just so like out of whack. Lily, I'd love to meet you sometime. I've always come across you and all that. And I know Karina and your best man, what's a good tall guy? Was supposed to have him. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I know Papa Honey. He's just forgotten me. I met him a couple of times down at the Freedom Village when I was there. But yeah, it's New Zealand, small place. You find everyone smells it. And Nigel, it'll be great to see you before I go too. Have you on my channel if you like as well.
Yeah,
if you could send me Nigel's details, Jason, or whatever, give it to him or vice
no
versa.
Problem. I'll tee everybody up. No worries.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, good luck and all the best to you. Stay strong.
Thanks. Right.
Stay safe down there.
brother.
Stay safe, mate. Thank you for doing the mahi down there and risking your own personal safety.
Thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, very
Okay,
good.
well, intense.
It's a lot
Yeah,
to
it is.
take
Super
in.
intense.
So, Billy, I was going to say that and you're probably familiar with, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I am trained as a detoxification specialist. And in 1998 to 2001, I spent 2 years in Russia. And I was putting a detox program right through Russia and all of the Commonwealth of Independent States, which is all the former Soviet countries, the Ukraine and there were even Ukraine, Kazakhstan and so forth. And and so this involved like training people who could actually then operate the detox in the areas. And so I was 2 years setting up this whole thing. I come back to New Zealand, and I went back to the US, come back to New Zealand, and then I arrive in the country, and I think, I should be a national hero here, in a way, not that I'm into, but it's like there were no New Zealand officials to greet me for what I did. Nobody even knew what I'd done, and the lack of interest. I mean, just ask this one question, and that is, how many detoxification specialists are there in New Zealand? Well, I don't think the job even exists in New Zealand. You couldn't find a vacancy for a detoxification specialist. Why not? Because there aren't any. Why? Because the government is too busy getting people onto drugs. They don't want people off drugs. They want people on the drugs. And we see that every day. It's all illegal drugs that they're pushing. So, and I could bitch about that, but I'm not going to, right? The thing is that, as Papa said before, is we need to work together. And as a people, we're doing more for the country, just working as a community. And I think we need to just disregard, to a large degree, the government and make them redundant simply by, hey guys, we've got it taken care of. Don't worry, you don't need to govern us anymore because we're already doing it.
Absolutely.
Well, that's actually the angle that Monica Smith is taking with the global walkout. And actually, I was in one of the collab meetings last night, and there's going to be a worldwide event on May the 20th, and people can shape it whatever they want to do. They can do it, but as long as practically every freedom movement in the world gets together on May the 20th and does something. It doesn't have to be a protest. It could be a party. It could be a barbecue. It could be anything. But just to send a message out there to the globalists. I mean, it's, hey, globalists, we don't need you anymore. We're doing our thing on our own.
I saw that poster
You're
today.
redundant.
I saw that poster
yeah.
today, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, I was in that meeting last night. Yeah. Just came out yesterday. So I was lucky to catch it because I've been quite busy and I haven't had a chance to catch up with the other collabs on. Go ahead, mate.
Billy, you grow your own food, don't you?
Yeah, I do. That's a good point, Nigel. Because the big concern that we have really is the I guess one of the bottom line consequences of the cyclone that we've had to date is we are talking about the destruction of the food basket, bread basket region of New Zealand. I've got a message here from my food producer in the Hawke's Bay right now, and he's saying that what people don't realise, it's not only about the crop, it's about the seed banking, it's about the seedlings that they grow to be able to supply to big producers. It's all gone. And what he's saying is that primary producers, secondary producers that are integrated, rely on each other as part of the food supply chain. Both areas, both parts of the chain are eradicated. So, and that's going to affect, not only the what we buy in the supermarket, but also, as a family, when you walk in and get potatoes or fruit or what have you, it's going to affect the food service area of New Zealand industry that need wheat, that need corn, all these different things, that are sort of base products for which other food items are supplied to restaurants, to big food manufacturers in New Zealand. He's saying it's all gone. I've got the message here. It's quite a long one. In fact, what I'll do, I just copied it. I'll put it in the chat here so you guys can hear what he's saying. But he's saying, "Hi everyone, food producer here from the Hawke's Bay. Just wanted to write an easily digestible post so people can understand how severe the destruction is in Hawke's Bay for the whole of New Zealand. The media aren't really discussing it fully, and people I speak to can't seem to wrap their head around about how serious this is for us as a country in totality. What's been lost? It's called the fruit bowl for a reason in our area. Not just grapes, not just apples, but also pears, onions, corn, carrots, blueberries, strawberries, etc., that form the basis of food supply in New Zealand." And he goes here and he says, "Oh, sorry, there. He's just sent me another one just as I'm talking to you guys." And what he's saying is, where is it? Okay, it's affected the honey, the dairy, the beef, sheep, products including wool, and also apiaries, nurseries, and seed banks. Wineries and orchards with their heritage trees and vines have been totally wiped out. We're talking 30 to 40-year-old plants at the earliest are now gone. Countless beehives and fields of crops buried under a metre of silt. These aren't just for fresh produce, but also for wine, vinegar, honey, bread, and processed fruit and vegetables, for things from muesli bars to ice cream and condiments. And he says, and he goes on and he goes, in that time we are going to see massive shortages of all the above, which will affect almost all food items you can think of. The employment aspect of job losses will be huge. The Prime Minister stated that they're looking into business support payments to assist in wages, but without trees to plant, prune or pick, we'll see massive job losses across the entire region as the economy collapses. Secondary food production will take a huge hit here. Without being able to source ingredients in the usual supply at usual price, many food producers will really suffer here. Adding to the hurt, insurance companies will take literally years to pay out those primary producers affected, and not nearly to the value of what is lost. So it's quite a long thing here, but he's talking about the downline consequences of how not only whether we can afford food, but whether the food items are there in the first place. So I'm sorry, and I don't want to seem like a conspiracy nut job at all, but this just doesn't feel right. It really, really doesn't.
No,
like Nigel
me
was
neither.
saying,
It doesn't feel right.
it doesn't.
Agreed.
What Nigel was saying with geoengineering, we've seen it ramp up here. We saw that strange lightning that wasn't lightning that lit up the entire horizon of our sky at night like a massive searchlight that took over the entire sky, on off, on off, on off, on off, like that. And I'd never seen that like that before. And that's just, there's no way that's natural. So whether they correspond with the outcome of these events or not, I don't know. But the fact is, it's not looking good. And when we talk about this whole thing about the coming social credit system, the universal basic income system, well, what better way to compel people to obey that by making food very, very scarce? Because as we know, Kissinger said, control the food, control the people. And I hate to say it, but I do suspect this is probably an operation along those lines.
I got that same feeling, to be honest. Go ahead, mate.
I was going to say that one thing that I want to drop in here is an advertisement, not for anything, but the point is this, is that when it comes to growing food, now we all need to start doing it, and it has to be undercover, right? From now on, food is not going to survive. We've already seen what happens, but we're going to have to grow undercover, because be it natural or geoengineering or whatever you want to call it, the climate is not such that you can go, great, you know, just stick in the veggie garden and you know, do a little bit of weeding every week or two, and it's going to be there. No, I have talked to, I mean, even just prior to this chat, somebody was telling me, he sent me some photos. He said, look, here's the radishes. They're not even edible. He said, this is the peas, and he had a photo. He said, they didn't even come up. And that is what we're seeing. Many people have told me the same thing.
Yep.
The only way we're going to do it is very simple. So buy some sheets of plastic, you know, get some, you know, some frame and stick it up. It doesn't have to cost a lot. You know, get some little seed trays, start growing. You've got to grow the seeds inside in trays. Don't grow them in the vegetable garden. Start them off inside, because it's going to take that. And then nurture them, look after them, weed them, care for them, because that's your food.
100% dead right, Nigel. I didn't quite get to your question in the right way before. I do. I've got we've got a whānau, Māori whānau trust farm that we live on here. It's an organic orchard, and we have big gardens and all that. And we've noticed exactly what Nigel was just saying. We've seen, you know, we've got a field out there full of pumpkins, Māori potatoes grew well, but entire sort of crop categories didn't even come up this year. And so what we've done, we've already snagged onto it. We know that we've got glass houses here as well that are full of food, and we've got glass house tomatoes and outdoor tomatoes, and they've both grown different. We actually still managed to get a good crop of tomatoes, but it's very, very, very different. And you know, I hate to say it again, but you know, it just does not feel right at all. I mean, we've known it's been coming for a long time. Let's face it, yeah. We do. We've all known this is coming. I've been saying since 2020 on my live broadcast that we all need to get our gardens in, but it's changed again. The rules have changed again. They've now got these particulates that are undermining, probably at the DNA or GMO sort of level, the traditional heirloom seeds and whatever you're growing, and it's raining down on us every day. And it's now they've changed something in the formula, because last year it wasn't like this. We had massive crops of everything. This year it's different, and I find the timing romantic, because they've been talking about, you know, about the coming food shortages for the world. Well, isn't that kind of strange?
Well, they've created the entire food shortage.
There's another thing in a point to make in growing food, and that is that when you grow a cabbage, when you grow cabbage maybe, anyway, don't, you know, you grow spinach or whatever, don't pick the whole plant out. Don't pull it out when it's ready. Pick the leaves that you need off it and keep it growing. Right now, this is very, very important, because they don't stop growing. They keep on generating more leaves, and then eventually they start going to seed. Don't pull them out then. Let them seed, and then when that seed has been sitting there and it's well developed, cut it off, take it off, right? Sit it somewhere to dry out properly. Make sure it's in a good place where it's not going to get eaten by mice or rats or something like that. It's got to be drying in a safe place. Let it dry out. Then harvest all the seeds from it. Even if you have to open every little pod individually, remember that every seed is one plant, and you get a lot of seeds just from one seeding plant. You can get a lot of seeds. Collect them, save them for next season, or for an ongoing season into the winter or whatever. Those are valuable. There is your money. There is your wealth for the future.
That's something
That's the most powerful commodity.
I learned from my parents. My family, we go back, like, we've been farmers all the way back. So I'm lucky. I think I got a bit of a head start with my very traditional parents. You know, that's one of my fondest memories, is going out in the garden and getting the seeds in. and then nurturing them, and so it's nice to be able to recognize plants and the importance of saving them, because you can't guarantee, if you go to the store and you buy a package of seeds, you can't guarantee that they're going to grow. Oh, is that radishes?
That is radishes, yeah, and I've got a whole bag of it here down here. I've got to crack it all open and get the seeds out. I've already got somewhere around here a little container of ones I've already done. That is how I value them.
So you confirmed, or I was able to confirm. Yeah, I recognize radishes, but yeah, no, it's very important.
Good recognition.
Can I?
Absolutely.
We're into hour 2, so we're about to wrap real soon. Just one thing, I want to ask a question. I like the idea of aquaponics. Have any of you guys considered the merits of aquaponics?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, especially sort of aqua sort of horticulture with the way that they've done it with fish, for example. That's something.
That's right.
These different technologies that they're using with the aqua as well, which is also involving the way that you maximize space per square foot as well. And these all sorts of amazing things. And even if people are watching this that live in urban cities, they can optimize their growing opportunities, even if they live in apartments with a very tiny maybe balcony at the front. You've got vertical growing, you've got bin growing, bucket growing, and you can do that all over your apartment, and the guy next door doesn't necessarily need to know. And right. Edible plants, so I want to encourage you.
Hanging baskets.
Baskets.
Strawberries and lettuce and hanging baskets. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Container planting. And then the vertical wall. Pipe. There's some really great YouTube videos of how to just build a simple thing and just go up a wall with the greenery. It's it just makes sense, and it's so beautiful.
Yep, and you can, what I've been saying to people that live in urban environments, go get one of those couple of those infant swimming pools, that are just above your ankles. Go get 2 or 3 of those if you can. Fill them up with a few bags of soil, some compost, and plant them indoors, and you'll be amazed what you can grow in that. And just, and then you just bulk it out, because what we need to think about is how did our ancestors live in tough times back in the day when the supermarket wasn't available? Well, the very first thing that they did, especially in terms of Māori culture, we had an abundance of seafood in our country. We had, we had bird life that's been eradicated in New Zealand. I live just a couple of k's away from one of the largest forests in New Zealand, and it's silent because of spraying to control the possums here. And so they've eradicated that. But what we used to do was starch and root foods were the stock and staple food varieties. So I want to encourage everybody, don't chuck out your half-eaten or potatoes that get rotten in your bags. Use them as seed potatoes, plant them. Or all of your pumpkins. Don't buy the hybrid pumpkins. Don't buy anything to do with GMO. Buy the ones that you crack open and there's a million seeds in them. Just like Nigel said, collect them, dry them out, and either plant them again. The thing about pumpkins, they'll grow anywhere, and you can keep them going if they're warm enough. If the frost doesn't get them. And so we've got to get creative. I've been advocating this for so long to people, warning that this was coming, So I just want to encourage you. This is a global phenomenon. This is not just New Zealand. This is they're telegraphing it very, very clearly. Along with the climate change lockdowns. What are they going to do? What are we going to do when they create this food shortage aspect? Then they say there's a COVID or a climate change lockdown. You can't go anywhere. Yeah. And then they say, oh, by the way, we've got a community food centre where we can dispatch food packs, but you need to roll up your sleeves.
Yeah. Or you can only get it if you haven't been naughty on Facebook.
Well, that's all of us in trouble.
That's us.
That's all of us in trouble.
I've always had this concept of the living market, where it was all aquaponics and they do these vertical pipes all the way through the house, or through the store, and in the center is a big pool where all the fish are, and it's all piped out. People just go in and they just pull it off the shelf and bag it, take it up to the counter and pay for it and walk out, And you can't get any fresher than that. And it's so efficient because of the space that it saves. Like traditional farming is flat, but when you go up, that's what I learned in the supermarket industry. When you go up, it's so much more efficient, and you can actually pack in a lot more, 2 or 3 times more.
You sound like
Maybe
you
even more
invented
than that.
shelves.
Well, I had a good packing system, yeah. When I was at Woolworth for years, yeah. Always go up, go vertical. Yeah, not
Well, if the
across.
cities all go up, I don't see why the gardens can't. I
Yeah,
think,
that's right.
I think gardening is definitely, especially with what's happening here in Canada with the farmers and everything. Everyone's encouraging everyone to have a garden because we don't know how long it's going to take before all the farms really, really start getting attacked, because it's started happening here now. We have environmental protection police who can show up on your farm without a warrant and just shut down any piece of machinery that they see if they deem it environmentally, unfriendly. And then, of course, like I was mentioning earlier in the show, Billy, you missed it, but I don't know if you saw that video, that farmer.
Yes, the milkman.
Yeah, the milkman. You did see it.
Farmer.
Yeah, I think he had to pour out 30,000, was it gallons?
Liters.
Yeah, of milk because it went over the quota, and it's just that's why I find it so important that we keep going with the unity and the communication between our countries.
That's
I think
right.
it's very important that we take notes and we learn from each other, because knowledge is power. I fully believe that. And if you don't know very much about gardening, but your neighbor has a gorgeous garden,
partner with them. Yep,
make
exactly.
friends. Yep, make friends.
100%.
Maybe they need help with accounting, and that's where you're good at it. You can help them. I believe in the trading. I've got something you need, and you've got something I need, and hey, can we swap? Perfect. I've got a friend in New Zealand there. She says the neighborhood she lives in, there's one person who's got strawberries, another person's got blueberries, and they just get together and they just trade, and then everybody has something. And I think that's beautiful. I think we need more of that.
We do that every day here where I live.
Good.
We do exactly that. We've got, for example, I've got 25 beehives on my land, and which I just provide the land because I got good bush here. And what I'd said to the beehive man, who also has a sheep business, is that don't pay me in money, because they can pay you a gratuity for each beehive on an annual basis. I said, no, don't worry about it. Keep your money. Just give me food. Give me the honey and give me some lamb.
That's perfect.
I'm not advocating for a meat diet. I'm just putting it out there. And then we've got some other friends that have they've got a dozen horses that they didn't have enough pasture for. So they're on our land, and that guy turns up, and he's a fisherman. So he dropped off big snapper, big fish. And then he did that the other day. So I quickly rushed into the garden and got him some squash and bits and pieces and all that. So that happens. We do that all the time here. We're very blessed to be able to do that. But it's a tough season, so we better get thinking again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Living the dream.
Yeah.
Living the dream, that's for sure. Well, man, that was really amazing. Actually, we were so blessed to have all of you guys on here tonight. To get like Papa and you and Lingo and Nigel all power packed in one. We missed out on Daniel. He had family turn up unexpectedly at his house, so he sent me a message saying he apologized for not making it. So we'll get to that dam. I think we kind of we didn't get into the nitty gritty details of the dam, so we'll get him back probably next week and talk about that. I mean,
I thought
it
you
is
were
past
saying like,
now.
damn.
Yeah, it's like,
we'll get back to that. Damn.
Yeah. So we'll let any questions. Let me just check the questions to make sure. It looks like we don't have any
in the comments.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of chatting and agreeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, We didn't have very many
My
links
Big
to
Dice
share.
says my neighbor. Big Dice says my neighbor destroyed my plans with toxic sludge, and I wanted a trout pond to feed the hydroponics. Now go no go now. Catfish, yeah, catfish is very popular in Asia. Those guys will grow anywhere. I'm actually moving to a small orchard. In 2 weeks' time, I'll be moving out of here, and we're going up to a bigger land. Initially, I got it for the dogs, but they had that parvo disease. But we got chickens up there, and we got a fish pond. Not a big one, but it's good enough to try my hand at aquaponics. And we got some solar assets up there as well. So getting a bit more closer to where I need to be, even though that's not really happening here. This country has gone nowhere near that direction. We're just traveling on as usual, but this whole thing with the geoengineering going on next door now, I'm starting to worry now. So I think it was the right move, and you never know when you get stuck.
Yeah,
I am in a fruit bowl right now, and we are kind of at the bottom of it. So I'm like, okay, lucky I made that decision to move up on the hill with a bigger piece of land and an existing orchard going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, that part of Canada that I originate from is the West Coast, specifically the Okanagan Valley, and it's known for its wines and its produce, its orchards, vineyards. It's so it'd be heartbreaking for me to see something like that happening there. I mean, I've grew up there, so I mean, any kind of change is really seen. And actually, what's the one of the worst things that even just in the last 10 years is how frequent we have our forest fires out there. So midsummer, all of a sudden, there's a forest fire somewhere, and the smoke will block out the sun basically till the snow falls. So that's something I've seen just in the last 10 years from where I'm from in Kelowna, in British Columbia, Canada.
I found this one interesting. From 613, I live in a 2-bedroom with no balcony, lawn, or anything, but the living room has 2 grow tents. Smiley face. There you go. That's how it's done. You can do it. You can do it in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. You can indeed.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you
Amazing.
for having me. Everybody, please send me your details because I didn't get your details last time I was on.
Oh, right.
After being on last time. So please.
My fault.
I just put in the chat there for Nigel as well my encrypted email link, so address. So if we could keep in contact on that, that'd be great. Just
I haven't even found the chat yet.
Oh heck! Okay.
It's at the bottom there. It'll have like the
private chat.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right,
that's
guys.
where you'll
Let
find
me-
it.
Let me copy it
Hold on,
for you.
give me something.
And I'll see you at the next one. Let's all get together and keep in touch.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
Billy.
okay. I got it. I can see it now. Yeah.
Thank you
All right,
so
guys.
much, Billy. All the best to you. Please stay safe
Yeah.
and
Okay.
sound.
Yeah, talk to you again, Billy.
Keep your spirits up.
Likewise, brother. Yep, you too. Take care, dear all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Nigel, for joining us. Very, very interesting information that we got from you. It was we touched on a very broad sense, and I think we all kind of agree. We all kind of come from different fields of life, but we all seem to have a very basic understanding that the reality of geoengineering is real, folks. It's real. Just because the media that says it's not real doesn't mean that the governments are not doing it. Do you believe everything you see on TV? Is what my old grandma used to say. Of course not. TV's a fantasy land. You know? I know. I went to film school.
Watch TV
television.
anymore?
No, all the fun's on the internet. The TV, the TV is just kind of like lost. The programming on television is just completely woke now and not even worth watching. But yes, Rosie, last words. We'll get you to close us out.
Well, I just want to thank everybody who's watched this whole time, and I'm sure there's a couple of you. I've seen them in the comments. Thank you so much for the comments. Thank you, Nigel, so much for being here, and thank you for staying strong. I really appreciate the information that you came and brought to us. Thank you again, Jason, for being such an amazing co-host, even with the technical difficulties, which we will always blame Jacinda Ardern for. And you know
Trudeau
what? We should
now.
get little bingo cards made up because I think that's a fun idea. And you know what? I think I might go back, rewatch this episode, and make it a drinking game. So anytime there were so many. It's the times we live in.
It's smoothed out on the
better get
second
some
hour.
drink
Definitely
then.
smoothed out. Yeah. It definitely smoothed out on the second hour. I guess I gave up and I figured that we weren't going to stop. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah, we just had to persevere. Hold the line.
Hold the line. Hold the line.
Absolutely.
Honk, honk, honk.
So if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to my channel. We try to do one of these shows once a week. This one was a special one dedicated to New Zealand and the disaster relief efforts down there among the people. So yeah, don't forget to like and ring the bell. And if you put a comment in the actual comment section underneath the video when it's done, it helps with the YouTube algorithm so we can get this message out to more people. Bill C-11 here in Canada is getting closer and closer to whatever ends we'll have, and it's just going to get harder and harder to be able to get this content out. So anything we can do to help each other, we'll keep doing that. And if anybody wants to help out in New Zealand, you can go to, there's a few of our Facebook pages. There's World Unity Food Drive Facebook page for New Zealand. And we should have some information there that you can find. And if you want to help out, you can reach out to me personally too. Just find me on Facebook. So anyway, thank you everybody for sticking with us. And for all the Kiwis that are watching and that are going to watch this, I really pray for you and your families. I hope you guys stay strong and you pull together. And we'll get this message shared because it's not fair that you guys
Thanks
suffered.
so much, Rosie. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to end this. Appreciate it, everybody.
Check out the links.